one extreme to the other again. So good against Adelaide without a result, so bad in so many areas.
Yeah.
Why is it that there's this wild swing?
Look, there's some significant differences in what the performance were and looked like. Clearly there were some issues today with personnel and fatigue and all those things against a team who got rolling after half time, because at half time we probably could have been easily in front, bar a nice freakish goal from Jeremy Cameron. And then the second half, I think we chased our tail a little bit and we took the game on a little bit, but made some fundamental skill errors that they were able to turn over and turn into score against, which then got away from us big time, and they finished us off.
But why is this? You look at the Bulldogs game, Adelaide game, just that.
Yeah, no, I think
swings wildly the way you perform.
No, I think they're reasonable questions, and there's somewhat different answers to them. I mean, today was a bit more of a physical component to it than the game against the Bulldogs, which they just outplayed us in every facet of the game. A bit similar to Geelong tonight, but we had some other reasons tonight. And then last week, accuracy cost us. Our inefficiency cost us. So whether it's injuries tonight, inefficiency, and then lack of polish through those bad losses is really exposed.
Is there an issue with last quarters?
You have to ask the question at 0 and 10. Having said that, we've won 4 games. We've been in close battles in the last quarter. But we have lost them all. So there's some differences in them, but the reality is the stats the stat.
What's the efficiency going in slow 50 in the first half, and then some skill errors again in the third quarter that kind of cost you after the Crows game?
Yeah, there's different reasons and different issues going on, and for us at the moment, they're issues that we need to get on top of straight away, starting from back at work this week.
How bad? They're all bad injuries, but
yeah.
How bad was Jason's hammy?
Yeah, well, they're all bad. I mean, they're all expected to, I'd imagine, to miss more than 1 week. But we'll wait and see what the scans say. So we're not in the position right now to say whether they're 1 week or 2 week or a 4 week hamstrings with what went on with, particularly with Lachie and Jason, and Sinny's is different. It's a hip, whereas a direct blow with a knee. So we'll have to wait and see what the scan is.
I think you sent 3 boys to Milwaukee over the pre-season and for injury camps, and as fate would have, they all were ruled out in the first term. Is it just one of those freak days on both sides?
Clearly for both sides. I mean, Cats lost a couple too, and hamstrings are on. It seemed like I think Geelong might have lost a couple.
It was 4 in total.
4 hamstrings in total. Yeah. So yeah, it was a significant hamstring day, wasn't it? I mean, slippery conditions, weather. I don't know. All those things you have to consider, but it seems a bit too coincidental to have 4 all in the first half too, very early on in the game. So the conditions, as I said, the temperatures, all those things are parts of it, but you would think not too big a part. They're pretty fit athletes, all these people who are playing both sides, so I don't think there's one or the other.
How much did the lack of those personnel and the lack of numbers on the bench kind of contribute to it, especially in the second half, where it's just like Geelong was just running around?
Yeah, no, well, they're significant to us because there's some major parts of that, and then Geelong lost some good players. Let's not just put it on us. I mean, they lost a couple of good players as well, but for us, they were significant to our structure, and we had to mix and match a fair bit, probably too much. And when you're mixing and matching all the time and things keep breaking down on you at midpoint, the opposition are able to go back at you. So I think they were significant in terms of the way we would have liked to move the ball, use the ball, get the ball. I think they're all real.
Chris Scott just described Orders as a team in transition. Is that fair, do you think?
No, I don't think that's completely accurate, but I imagine why people would think that and say that. I mean, that's the reality of, what are we, 4 and 6? So that's why people will come to those conclusions, and some of the losses have been quite big, significantly big, but I don't think it's a transition moment. I think it's it's a come to terms with what's really, really important for you and play it for long periods of most games. Now, as I said, we're not terrible, but we've had some terrible losses.
When you review this one, how much will you look at the second half and the inability to stop them from piling on the goals?
Yeah, we go into most games with a focus on making sure our contest and our pressure and our team defence is at a really high level, because if it's not at AFL football, you'll get beaten badly, and that's what we've seen 3 times this year. When we've broken down, it's there's a part of our efficiency that goes into it, but the other parts that hold you in games of football are usually around your contest and your pressure. and then your team defence. Tonight again, when the tide turned, I would have thought we were poor in probably all three.
Can you fix that? Can you fix that in a season? Rectify that within season?
We did, you do. We have done it stop and start wise this year. We haven't been consistently good, and that's the challenge for any. If you want to be at the top, you've got to be consistently good at that. If you're inconsistent, you'll be where we are currently. Doesn't mean you can't get back to doing what you do and knowing what you do. And we do know what we do well. The challenge is us to make it more consistent, and we have been able to do this year in the first 10 rounds.
So you have basically 40 more handballs than they do, and they have basically 40 more kicks. You're still confident your game plan is holding?
Yeah, the numbers. The numbers are easy to read, but they're not easy to. You got to determine how they come about. I think when you get 40 more handballs, sometimes it can be the pressure of the opposition. Like they really pushed pressure onto us big time, and that makes you overplay the ball. Some of the challenges with that is when I talk around contest is knowing when you should be trying to deliver versus when you should just be trying to take. And for us, when you get elite pressure on you from a side like Geelong, it made us cough up a few too many handballs. But there was change of the game today where we were handballing and that looked pretty effective until the finish going inside our forward 50. So I think it's I think it can be a little bit overrated at times, the different numbers. When they're kicking the ball like they do, they're a very, very good team at using the ball.
Is it challenging now to set up a goal-scoring winning team and don't seem to have a dominant key forward?
Mitch's been pretty good as far as
But he's not.
his efficiency today was critical, and he's normally, imagine he's had two shots from directly in front, I think, nearly, and Mitch normally would nail them for us. He ends up.
We've never defined him as the big talk.
No, he's playing a role. Let's not forget, Marshall and the coaches are not there, so we're working with what we have, and that's what we'll always. Every side has injuries, but some of them are critical, and for us, that was a critical piece of what we were hoping to look like at the study. But we've worked really hard to get to this point with Lord and Finlayson back in the side, and George have been able to play their roles and survived off our small forwards pressure. But we've had a number of games where we've just been so far off, and we've paid a price on the scoreboard. We deserve the whacks that we got.
If you had your time again, would you bother tagging Bailey?
Yeah, I think you'd try, and that's what you do. You do your best, and he's been in incredible form. I mean, he seems to be enjoying life down at Geelong, doesn't he? But he's a really powerful runner, and so is Holmes. We understood that, and we knew the challenge. But if we were going to be successful at that, it's team v team that helps that, and their tag looked more successful than our tag based on their team effect, and the team effect was in their favour.
So does the team need to do more tonight to help Zach out?
Oh, I think again, when you're in that type of performance tonight, you can try and help, but the reality is everyone's out there trying to get some part of their own game right, and that's what happens. It implodes a little bit quickly.
When you look at powerful runners, Ollie Dempsey in the third quarter as well. I mean, coming that wing, how much damage did he do to?
He's got an interesting player. He's a really high-end talent, clearly, and a young player too, who they'd be really pleased with. But we do our best with our players, and I'll let them do their best with their players. Ollie and the other players that you mentioned for Geelong, I'm sure they're happy they've got them.
Ken, did you see what Luke Beveridge said yesterday regarding David Gosh's comments around the Western Bulldogs?
Yeah, I did see a little bit of it, what was said, and for me, I think the club's on record with trying to make some change, and I think that's what we set out to do, was certainly not to point the finger at any individual, but other than say that as a competition, we need to do better with lots of things in as far as the Indigenous players go, and I think that's the point we're trying to make. Certainly not lay blame on any individual.
Will you reach out to Luke? He was pretty pointed with his...
Again, I wasn't involved with Luke's press conference. I mean, I'm sure the clubs would have had some sort of conversations at some point, and maybe they'll have another one. I don't know, but it's not for Luke and Ken to sort out. I think this is a club discussion that needs to go on. But again, I'm going to take you back to the start. What our club is trying to do is shine a light on something that still needs to get better. And I think the competition and the AFL are clear on that. I think they've even sent out a letter in the last couple of days around what some of those things should and could look like. I think the reality is all we're trying to do is make sure the game's a better place for Indigenous players to play where they feel like they want to play.
So he used the word enable. Is that language, when it came to... Does that sit comfortably with you?
Again, you need to ask Luke. around his conversation. My thought is around what we're trying to do as a competition to make it a better place for Indigenous players around Indigenous round particularly. So we just want to, I suppose, we want to shine a light on that. We've got to get better still.
Ken, how devastating is the news out of the West for Adam Selwood and the Selwood family?
Yeah.
As a footy club, how did you sort of handle that?
Yeah, no, well, who can understand tragedy like that for that family? And my thoughts and prayers go out to the family. And I've got very close relationships with Joel, and I can only imagine. I know I can't even imagine how they're feeling. All I can do is send our best, thinking of them.